Well, how about this? A Friday edition of The Sweat, and you're stuck with us. Clearly, nobody else was available. But also, first time that we've hosted a show together since, I think, December. It's been a while. And
first of 2019.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. Brendan Glasheen, Adam Kaufman, hello, welcome in. We've got you for the next hour. We are excited and looking forward to covering a whole lot, including we have got other special plans. And, of course, it's a Francesa Friday. So, I mean, who doesn't get excited about that?
Yeah, we know. We know you're excited. You missed out last week, and you're back in your usual form.
Thank you.
Francesa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that. Adam Mancuda and Steve Buchanan are joining us to start our baseball coverage. MLB Chase or Fade, where we give a couple of questions and we ask if these guys agree or disagree with the following statements. Adam, do you want to start us off? Because my iPad just had to reboot a moment ago.
Yeah, like I said, it's been a while and there's a reason for it. I'm happy to do that. Let's bring in DK Live Steve Buchanan, who I'm certain will have something to say about that. And, of course, Adam Mancuda, DFS analyst. Now, guys, let's start baseball. 13-game MLB slate. You got the Red Sox, you got the Dodgers, World Series rematch, and the over-under for this game, it's 10.5, fellas, which is a big bloated total. It's not something that happens often in the 5-game World Series set they played last fall. We certainly didn't see that with any sort of regularity. Pitching more of a premium, but for these two teams, Red Sox come in with the best offense in baseball. Dodgers certainly capable of hitting the ball. So what do you expect? Chase or fade on a nice high-scoring game tonight, Bukes?
Yeah, I'm going to chase this one. You look at the numbers for Kenta Maeda on the road. I mean, they're really not all that impressive. He's got a 320, 4.70 xFIP, 7 of his 14 home runs allowed. And, despite some offensive struggles during the season, the Red Sox have been one of the best hitting clubs at home, especially against right-handed pitching. And then you look at the Dodgers side. The Dodgers have been no slouch against lefties either. 336 WOBA, 194 isolated power, going up against Eduardo Rodriguez. Rodriguez has been better at Fenway Park this season, but this is a really, really good offensive club against left-handed pitching. And then, God forbid that Red Sox bullpen gets in the game, and then anything is on the table at that point. So I think there's a lot to like in this game offensively. Two pitchers who have done well so far this season, but they're going against two really good offensive clubs. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like here in terms of offense here tonight.
All right, so Bukes feeling pretty good about the over. You going to chase or fade the under, Mancuda?
No, I also like the over. And the reason why is a few things. Number one, the Dodgers are getting healthy again. So that means Corey Seager was activated today. A.J. Pollock was activated today. Justin Turner's back in the lineup. He missed some time last week nursing an injury. I don't like Eduardo Rodriguez. He's just too up and down. He's been given huge leads at points this season thanks to that potent offense, and he's blown them a lot. I also don't like Maeda on the road. The short, obviously the monster in left. I think the offense for the Red Sox will get going again here in the second half and kind of give them hopefully a surge for their sake. So I just think that this number is, it's bloated. It's 10.5. I just like both offenses here to step up and really take care of, Erod for sure. And then as Steve said, the Red Sox bullpen is dreadful. And when you have guys like Verdugo coming off the bench like they'll have tonight, because obviously they have a right-handed heavy lineup, I think that they'll obviously put up some runs. So I'll go the over too.
Red Sox have won 4 straight. Dodgers, I think, lost 3 in a row going into the break, so they kind of limped in. But again, we're still talking about the best team in baseball at 60-32. And I can't believe neither of you gave Glasheen any crap over his iPad. I mean, he's still trying to fix it over here. Really poor.
I mean, it's a Friday, so, you expect the B talent on the show. So I'm not.
Excuse you?
Wrong.
Well, that didn't take long. 4 minutes into the program. All right, let's move on. Indians and Twins are going to square off.
Including himself in the mix.
Indians are minus 139 favorites at home. All-Star game hosting Indians. Key weekend series against these Twins. Cleveland, the AL's hottest team, heading into the break with 6 straight wins. But chase or fade that the All-Star layoff has killed the Indians' momentum, and the Twins, Adam Mancuda, are in a good spot.
I'll fade that. I'm not a believer in the All-Star game, halting anyone's momentum here. I think the Indians, if anything, are a second half going to be a nice second half story here. They have the manager to kind of push the right buttons here in the second half. The Twins, who knows what we're going to see? They have pitchers that have outperformed their baseball card throughout the season, including Kyle Gibson. So let's see how he faces the Indians tonight. I think the Indians are going to be an interesting team here coming the trade deadline as well. I think they're going to be one that is going to add here as well. So I'll take the Indians tonight. Why not? I think they have some nice momentum. Obviously, they had Shane Bieber, who pitched a really solid inning, getting the MVP the other night. They have some momentum carrying over from the All-Star game. So why not? I don't think there will be a hangover. I'll take the Indians tonight.
All right, Steve, chase or fade? Twins in a good spot for an upset, or do they have B talent?
Mancuda brought up Bieber won the MVP. What the hell does that have to do with anything tonight?
Momentum.
What momentum does that have to do? He came in and pitched a scoreless inning, so momentum into the next game.
Yeah, let's all ride on Bieber's reliever. Idiot. I think this is a good spot for the Indians, though. All BS momentum stuff aside here. I mean, when you look at what Kyle Gibson has struggled against this season, it's against lefties. And on the road, he's got a 369 WOBA, 4.06 xFIP. And when you look at the Indians lineup, they're pretty heavy on the left side. They either have guys that are batting lefties or guys with the ability to bat from the left side. And then you look at Mike Clevenger. I mean, aside from that atrocious start against the Orioles, he's been really good when he's been healthy. And the Twins are a very good offense. Don't get me wrong here, but this is going to be a pretty tough matchup for them. Clevenger has just been solid on the mound. Like I said, he's been hurt, he's been injured, but when he has been pitching, he's been kind of showing like he was last year, how well he was pitching last season. So, I'm a huge Twins backer. The Twins were one of my favorite teams to win it all this season, but I think this is going to be a tough game for them here tonight. I really like the Indians going against Kyle Gibson. Gibson's kind of been shaky. He had a really good start to the season, but in the months of June, heading into the All-Star break, you kind of see him starting to crack a little bit here. So I think the Indians are in a good spot here tonight.
Boys, the Mets are in Miami to begin their unofficial second half, and Pete Alonso was amazing, in the home run derby, plus 270. I couldn't help myself. Plus 275. I was were we on camera for a Bukes eye roll? Because that's what I strive for. Bukes, how about momentum? If ever there was a conversation about momentum where it maybe kind of sort of fit, plus 275 for Alonso after winning the home run derby to go deep in this game here tonight. You want to buy in, chase, or fade?
So we got, Bieber throwing a great inning. Now we got, Alonso did well in the home run derby. You know what? Maybe if I wake up at 9 o'clock, maybe I'll have a good day. I'll have some momentum going for me because I slept in late. Who cares? He's got a tough matchup today against Caleb Smith. He's only allowed 2 of his 13 home runs on the year at Marlins Park. He's been phenomenal at Marlins Park. 228 WOBA, 2.76 xFIP. I'm not taking any Mets here against Smith. I wrote up Caleb Smith. Some of the other hosts actually read my articles. Kaufman, you don't. They read my articles. They know who I'm on. Caleb Smith is one of my favorite guys on the slate. So, no, I'm not taking Alonso. I don't care what he did over the All-Star break. I don't care what he did last night. I don't care what he had for dinner. I'm not taking Alonso today.
We're long past the point of me having to kiss up to you. Plus, you have children, so I actually think you don't believe what you say. Getting up at 9 o'clock is like the best feeling in the world. That is momentum for a good day. Mancuda, what do you think? Is he going deep, chase, or fade?
Yeah, I want to touch on that real quick. I have 2 kids. If I'm awake or sleeping past 7 a.m., that's a great start to my day. So 9 a.m. is like heaven. So, Enough of that nonsense. I don't think he's going to hit a home run tonight either. If he's faced Smith in the past, 3 at-bats, 2 strikeouts, not a huge sample size here. So you got to think he's probably going to take advantage of that bullpen if he's going to. I just don't see it. I wouldn't take that number. I think the Mets, tonight, who knows with Vargas on the mound in terms of, winning the game. But in terms of Alonso, I would stay away from it. I just think there are probably safer options there. Not a hitter's park as we know, so I'll just stay away.
All right, one prop on the DK Sportsbook for tonight's 13-game slate. Total hits for players in the White Sox-A's game. Best odds for this prop is Chris Davis at plus 225 to go over 1.5 hits. Chase or fade that Davis will get the over and pick up a couple of hits against those White Sox, Mancuda.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Chris Davis is not an average hitting guy. 247, I think that's the number over the last handful of seasons for him. But, hey, the ball jumps in that ballpark, especially in the summer. I don't trust the White Sox pitching staff, so why not? I'll take Davis. I like this prop a lot better than the Alonso pick, so give me Davis to take this and get the 2 hits needed tonight.
All right, well, I think Davis got a good night's sleep. So, Steve, does he go over?
I mean, here's the problem with Davis is that he's been struggling for quite a while now. He hasn't hit a home run in almost a month. The last time he hit a home run was on June 18th. Since that date, he hasn't scored more than 9 DK fantasy points in a game since he hit that last home run. Only 1 multi-hit game in that span. So even at the odds that we're given right now, I don't want to take this bet at all. You see Matt Chapman is right below him at plus 210 for over 1.5 hits. I'd much rather take that. He ended the All-Star break averaging 10.2 DK fantasy points over his last 10 games, 3 games with at least 2 hits in that span. So Chapman feels like a much better bet you're not losing much on the odds there either. So when Davis gets cold, he is ice cold, baby. Like, he just absolutely cannot hit anything when he's in one of those streaks. But in the same respect, when he starts getting hot, he's hitting everything and everything. So he's in one of those cold streak right now. That's not somebody I'm looking towards. I would much rather take Chapman at plus 210.
Gentlemen, I guess pretty good insights. I was going to say great. I curbed myself.
Go have something to eat. We don't care what you eat.
Yeah, have a Snickers. Cheer yourself up a little bit.
They're joining us again.
Yeah, I know. We'll see you again in a little bit. We're going to take a little break ourselves. But I had the great pleasure earlier today of chatting with, well, I don't know if she's a single lady, but she's most certainly the queen bee. She is a professional
Hey, what's going on?
softball
I'm
player.
Tara
It's AJ
Lanezak
Andrews.
here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Houston Rockets swung a blockbuster trade last night, which has everyone stunned. Bye-bye OKC Thunder, Russell Westbrook is heading to Houston, and Chris Paul, along with a bunch of first-round picks, is going to OKC. The deal set NBA Twitter on fire last night, with players past and present weighing in. Dwayne Wade was worried about his jersey collection from his farewell tour, while Westbrook's new teammate Clint Capella couldn't hide his excitement. So, the Rockets are reuniting two former MVPs who started their careers together with the Thunder, and now the question is, how will these two ball-dominant guards share the court? Both these players ranked top 4 in touches per game last season, as well as top 3 in isolation possessions per game, meaning they don't pass a lot. If they can figure it out, the hope would be Westbrook can take some of the load off of Harden, and that could make them a very dangerous team next season. As for Paul, he might not be long for Oklahoma City. Woj reported that Houston had hoped to find a third team preferable to Paul, but they will leave this one to the Thunder to determine once GM Sam Presti meets with Paul and his agent.
Well, we're pleased to be joined by professional softball player AJ Andrews. AJ, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I get to hang out with you for a little bit here. We're going to talk about a whole lot of different stuff, beginning with, of course, National Pro Fast Pitch. And you've played in that. I imagine not a lot of our viewers are all too familiar. So what should people know about women's professional softball?
Well, I think first and foremost, they should know that it exists. We are here.
It's a thing.
And everyone really, I feel like it's kind of that hidden gem. And so I want to be the first to tell you, if you don't know, that there is professional softball. It's an opportunity to literally watch the best of the best continue on with their careers, because unfortunately, really only about 20 to 24 girls get drafted. So it is literally the All-Americans, literally your favorite players on any team. The stars from the teams are the ones that can get to continue their career. So professional softball, it's a growing sport. I think that we still have a lot of work to do, but I think like we're in the same boat as a lot of professional not softball, but a lot of professional women's teams, where we're just really trying to get that exposure and get people to realize that, you know, we are just as good and we're just as amazing as the men's teams. And it's time for everybody to recognize and watch.
You've used your platform as an athlete to become involved in the community and trying to not just teach, but obviously empower women. And that cause has been in the news a lot lately, of course, with the success and the championship run of the U.S. Women's World Cup team, and how important it was for them to go on and really make a name for themselves, now back-to-back World Cup championships. How significant was that run in terms of elevated women's sports?
Oh, I just think the more opportunity that women in sports have to be on camera and to showcase our talent and just badassery, I think it's really just going to continue to elevate the game, because, you know, I feel it's unfortunate when we play a sport where, you know, we have a male counterpart in that sport. It's always a comparison. You know, they're not as good as the guys. They don't do this as good as the guys, or whatever it may be. And the soccer team is a team to shut down any of those speculations, any of those things that the haters want to say. They have done it all. So I think that they have definitely been one of the teams and the women that have been paving the way for all of us when it comes to equal pay, when it comes to using our voice and just standing up for what we believe in. Because women in sports, we've been kind of put in a box and at times being forced to shrink ourselves because the world kind of wants us to act a certain way. But at the end of the day, we are elite competitive athletes that have worked our butts off our entire career to get to this high level that not everyone gets to be at. And we deserve the same respect that these men that have worked just as hard as we have to get to that. So I think that they are the ones that are truly allowing women to say, no, I am a dope athlete. Forget the female. I am an amazing athlete. I've worked so hard for these accomplishments. And I feel like it's time that we get the, appreciation that the men get, and to stop comparing. We're not the same sport. It's not the same people playing it, but the talent is the same, and the hard work and the effort that's put in is the same. And, it's definitely an inspiration for so many people. For me, I work a lot with the urban youth academies with Major League Baseball. And to be able to really kind of let girls know that the representation is there now. When you see yourself on TV, or you see those athletes on TV and you can see yourself through them, it gives those kids an opportunity to say, oh, wow, that could be me. But when you don't see that, you don't have something to identify with. And it's hard for women or young women in sports to kind of have those high goals that young men get to have ever since they start watching any sport, baseball, football, what have you, because it's always on TV. So I think the more exposure we get as women on the main stage in the sports that we play, the more people will realize that our sports are so much fun to watch, and everyone should start getting in tune to it.
One of your messages is that women should be able to feel beautiful and strong at the same time. You've written about that in the Players Tribune, and also participated in the ESPN Body issue back in 2018. Yeah. Why was being part of those two projects important to you?
Well, I think as women in general, we kind of grow up with a lot of insecurities just with our bodies, growing into different things. You have these picture perfect of what society views as beautiful, and a lot of girls are trying to match up to that. And as a woman in sports, you got a lot more muscles than the average female, right? Than
Sure.
The cover girl, you got some more bulges coming out. And so for me growing up, I wasn't necessarily super proud of my muscles. Sometimes it was something I wanted to hide because of the stigma of me looking manly or, like a man. I had gotten those comments when I was younger, and it really made me insecure about my arms. And so for me, when I got to college, was when I realized, look, you have to lift if you want to be an All-American. You have to form these muscles. If you want to hit bombs, you need to hit the weight room. Like we gotta get going. And so it was kind of a decision maker where it was like, do you want to fit this mold of beautiful, or do you want to be, like I said, a badass athlete? And so I chose to be a badass athlete. And with that came with not worrying about how I looked on the exterior, but truly loving myself, accepting myself, and knowing that my muscles are a result of the hard work that I put in. And this is what's going to get me to the next level. And so me kind of having that liberating feeling is something I wanted to share, because I knew a lot of my counterparts, a lot of my fellow teammates, I'm sure a lot of young girls have had moments just like mine. And so for me to be able to represent them in the body issue, because the softball player hadn't been in the body issue for 10 years before I was in it. And so, it's just another opportunity to really showcase the sport that I love that I don't feel gets the attention it deserves.
Well, let's talk more about your softball career, because you were the first woman to receive the Rawlings Gold Glove Award in 2016. What did that accomplishment signify for you?
I think it definitely signified just barrier breaking, and the fact that I can truly achieve anything that I want to achieve. And, it really doesn't matter what it is or what impossible is in front of me. Before 2016, right, that award hadn't been given to a woman. So for a woman to think that she could win it was quote unquote impossible. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like getting the impossible done. And I really feel as if it was something that really started me knowing, or, I always believed in myself, but the fact is that you never know when your time is coming, right? I feel like sometimes in the sports, especially like baseball, softball, where it's a complete sport of failure, and, it's a mind game. Mm-hmm. It definitely is a lot of talent, but you have to have confidence and you have to have a strong mental game in order to be successful. And for me, there was that season when I won, I had actually broke my hand. And I won the Gold Glove with a broken hand, my left hand. And so but my confidence had gone down during the season. I was just so cautious and so nervous about different things. And it just really was a situation where when I won, I realized I can persevere and come through anything and still be completely successful. And it doesn't matter what obstacles were set in my place. I can truly achieve anything. And, not only was it for myself, but achieve anything for anyone. Softball players right now, softball girls can achieve or strive to be Gold Glove winners. That's just one more door that had been broken down, one more door towards equality, not just for softball, but for women in sports in general. And, I feel like a win for one of us, for one of the sports, is a win for all of us, because it just helps each other. We can continue to help each other along the way in order to get the equality and the things that we deserve in the game. So, I think that it signifies change 100%. It signified change. I think it signified growth and progression for women in sports, especially softball, and also for myself. And, just knowing that there's nothing that can keep me down, not even a broken hand.
Well, it seemed like you two hit it off and had a great conversation.
I can't wait to talk to her again. It was a great pleasure.
Is that in the plans?
Well, we didn't set up a date, if that's what you're asking. I'm a happily married man, but she was delightful.
Okay.
All
right. Let's move on and talk some basketball, because it feels as if the NBA offseason just won't come to a halt. Around this time yesterday, we got the news of Russell Westbrook being acquired by the Houston Rockets, a couple of first-round picks. I think now at this point, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be scouting fifth graders to see who's going to be in uniform.
Not an exaggeration. Literally, they have, if I'm not mistaken, Oklahoma City, Sam Presti has acquired 15 first-round picks between the 2020 and 2026 drafts. So, yeah, a fifth grader basically just got traded for Russell Westbrook.
LeBron's kid. Watch out, LeBron. He might not be going to the Lakers.
Yikes.
This is NBA Seeing the Future, Russell Westbrook edition. Russell Westbrook, like Steve Buchanan in the same sentence, have their own segment on the Sweat.
Only thing they have in common.
As it turns out, though, Steve is not here for this segment. It is Alex
Actually,
Barutha
both have a lot of attitude.
of RotoWire, who's going to join us. Thank you, sir, for coming on. With the report of the Westbrook deal last night, the Rockets' odds to win the NBA title shifted from plus 1,500 to plus 750. Can this Rockets combo of Harden and Westbrook and Clint Capella, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, they're all still there. Can it work?
Yeah, I think so. This is we saw the Rockets team go against the Warriors a couple of years ago and almost make it to the NBA Finals, except that Chris Paul got hurt, pulled his hamstring, and things kind of have fallen out since then. But a lot of people would say that Westbrook is better than Chris Paul and at least more healthy, in general. And I think overall this trade added more talent to the Rockets, and they still have Clint Capella. They still have the role players like PJ Tucker. Like you said, I'm not sure I would have moved the odds up that much, but they are, without question, a title contender at this point.
Well, I don't think there's any disputing that Russell Westbrook is a better player than Chris Paul, especially at this stage. He's not as injury prone. No, he's not as strong defensively. He's better defensively when he's willing to buy in, but the guy is also a walking volume player. It's just you can look at it a couple of different ways. You could say, is that a good thing in that he's going to add a ton of production, or is it bad in that he and James Harden are going to pull from each other a little bit with regard to, fighting for the last shot, fighting for that last assist or rebound for a triple-double? Do their individual games become bigger than the ultimate team game of winning? That's one of the things, obviously, we have to find out. But despite the major changes in title odds, the win total only rose by 1. That, I don't think, is as crazy. 51.5 to 52.5. So is that a reasonable total for the team, Alex? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. The Rockets have won at least 53 games over the past 3 years. And, like we said, Westbrook's a more talented player than Chris Paul at this point. But, there has to be a period in which James Harden and Russell Westbrook get used to playing together, I guess, again. And, usually the less continuity there is on a team, the harder, the fewer wins they would win compared to their overall talent. So, yeah, I think moving them up just a little bit was pretty appropriate, given that the team is going to have, in general, a pretty new vibe, even though it'll probably still be two relatively isolation-heavy players.
Well, to Adam's point, both players are very ball-centric, and that's what makes the MVP futures look ahead to who could win MVP and how the odds look after this trade. James Harden has the fourth best odds of any player at plus 650. Westbrook comes in triple the odds almost, plus 1,800. Do you think either player has a chance of winning MVP, or I should say, do their odds diminish because they are both ball-centric players and they're going to be on the court together?
I would say their odds probably diminish a little bit. Obviously, James Harden will probably still average around what he's been averaging. I don't imagine that goes down too much. But Russell Westbrook is an interesting case because if this team happens to just gel really well, and if they happen to be the 1 seed in the West or win the most games in the league, then the conversation and the narrative shifts on Westbrook, from a guy who's not efficient, turnover prone, not a winning player, to, okay, this guy is adapted to a new environment and led the Rockets, to higher wins than they have before. So I think there is a possibility that Westbrook wins it, but it would basically result in a change of his game entirely, to the point where the Rockets become, I guess, the best team in the league.
Yeah, I wonder how much they're going to actually share the court together. I wouldn't personally put them on the floor more than like 15 minutes together and have basically, have each of them lead 2 different units. You could probably maximize your success because, quite frankly, in the past, both guys have been comfortable leading sort of, sub-achieving teams, if you will, and they find good success.
What I want to know? Who's going to be in the State Farm commercial? Is Westbrook?
It's going to be awkward. It's going to be awkward.
Can
Westbrook
at this point fill the void?
It won't be Chris Paul. I can tell you that. All right, let's talk about OKC though, because again, stockpiling picks between the Clippers trade involving Paul George and of course this one with Russell Westbrook. Sam Presti did a hell of a job in trying to rebuild. We'll see what they do over the next several years in doing that and controlling all these drafts. But their title odds go from plus 7,000 to plus 15,000. So they weren't a title favorite before. They're certainly not now. There is still some talent there, though, Barutha. There's Danilo Gallinari was acquired from L.A., Dennis Schroeder is there. Steven Adams, of course, is there,
having
making
a hard
way too
time
much
coming
money.
up with the names.
Yeah, well, there's talent, but there are no stars. So what's your take on the plan, if you will, in OKC right now?
Well, I think they're doing the right thing. They got a historic haul for Paul George because they had all the leverage in the world, and that kind of forced them to trade, Westbrook, because they weren't, they knew after that pairing was done that they weren't going to have a chance. So, having Chris Paul on their roster now, who they're probably going to deal elsewhere, Miami's in the mix, for more assets. This is an incredible job by Sam Presti to do this. As far as the Thunder team that we know it, assuming guys like Schroeder and Gallinari and Adams are leading the way. I'm sure they'll be competitive every night because those are all, veteran players. They're quality players, but I would very much expect them to miss the playoffs. And yeah, just overall, very much a rebuilding season for them.
Billy Donovan's essentially going to be coaching a college team again, like he was in.
I think you're being a little too tough on them. They're, like Barutha said, in all likelihood, in that crowded, talented Western Conference, not a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to suck. I don't think they're going to be terrible, but whatever the case, we got to move on. We got to do some other stuff. Alex, thank you for your time. Now go make your couch.
Thanks.
He wasn't thrilled about that. Okay. Mike Francesa and Adam Kaufman are going to chat because we all missed that after a week of absence of Kaufman. NASCAR Price Check with Pierce Dietrich is on the way. Quaker State 400 at Kentucky Speedway tomorrow night. Take it away, Pierce.
Welcome to the Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Kentucky. Whose salary jumped up this week? Kyle Busch. $11,000 up to $11,500. He won at Kentucky in 2015. In the last 5 at Kentucky, he has 4 top 5s. Typical Kyle Busch numbers. Michael McDowell, $5,700 up to $6,700. The price reflects heavy ownership at a plate race, so you're overpaying for a driver that's averaging a 25th place finish at the intermediate tracks. Ross Chastain, $5,100 to $5,600. He's back in the 15 car. Not a bad punt for a driver that's averaging the 22nd most fantasy points per race. Whose salary dropped this week? Kevin Harvick, $11,300 down to $10,600. Not a bad price for arguably the fastest car in the series, but I'd rather have Truex. I'd rather have Kyle Busch. Clint Boyer, $9,300 down to $8,700. Again, not a bad price, but Boyer has not finished on the lead lap at an intermediate track since Kansas. Daniel Suarez, $8,100 down to $7,600. He's too cheap again. Mr. Optimal, Senior Optimo is going to be popular again this weekend. Favorite play of the week, Martin Truex Jr., $11,000. 4 wins this season, but more importantly, last year at Kentucky, 122 fantasy points. The year before that at Kentucky, 127 fantasy points. Alex Bowman, $8,500. He is the hottest driver in NASCAR. And there are 12 drivers more expensive than him. Don't overthink this. All right, guys, check out the DK Playbook for your DFS information and needs. If you have NASCAR questions, hit me up on Twitter at @RaceForThePrize. I'm Pierce Teacher. Catch me on DK Live.
It's a Francesa Friday. Adam Kaufman with Mike Francesa, of course, host of Mike's on WFAN in New York. And Mike, we got to begin with the NBA, with what has been going on in this insane league. So after Paul George forced his way to the Clippers, and I know you've touched on that a little bit here, the Thunder agreed to trade Russell Westbrook to the Rockets. Houston was able to unload Chris Paul, had to give up a haul of draft picks and pick swaps and all that in the process. But the move reunites Westbrook and James Harden. Can this thing work?
No, it has no chance of working. As a matter of fact, it's an awful deal. A terrible move by Houston, but Houston was boxed in anyway. The Paul thing was dead. So this has a better chance of working than the Paul thing did, but it's still not going to work to any high level. No, this will not work, and I believe that he'll be traded somewhere else within a year. I don't think that this will last. But listen, I understand why it happened. I understand what Oklahoma City was trying to do. They were going to move him for the best package they could. They have made some very smart moves here. They'll move Paul, I would guess, to Miami, but he'll move Paul quickly somewhere else. I think Paul's shot anyway. But Westbrook's not shot. But again, he is not the guy you want to bring into anything except a very special situation. And no, it will not work. The big winner in all this was Oklahoma City. Although the Clippers, obviously getting the two players, came out looking good. And with Jerry West there, he'll find them other players. So you don't worry about that. He's the best eye for basketball talent ever. So he'll come up with a couple of surprises, as he did in Golden State. And I think the big Clippers won, and I think Oklahoma City won big.
So when you say you think the Thunder won, you're talking specifically about the Westbrook deal or overall? And I guess what I mean by
overall.
Overall. So you think they're in a better state right now with all these picks and everything they were with Westbrook and George?
Yeah, they couldn't win with those two. I don't think they. I think they knew it. Now they get a chance to get a real swing at it, and they will be in a position to move on whenever the right group of players is available in the draft or is available anywhere. They will have the ability to move on wherever they have to move on. So they'll know they're taking a step back. They knew they couldn't win anyway, and now they will have the ability to rebuild completely, and they have great assets. I mean, they made one of the great deals of all time with the Clippers. But the Clippers weren't making a deal for one player; they were making a deal for two players, and they knew that, and they needed to make the deal to get both players. They wouldn't have got Leonard if they hadn't made the deal with the Thunder. So, with that being the case, I understand their motivation, and I also understand the Thunder's motivation. The Thunder did very well for themselves.
Sam Presti's going to have his swings, no question. If I'm not mistaken, it's 15 first-round picks between the 2020 and 2026 drafts. So, I mean, there's a kid in high school effectively traded in that.
They control the draft for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
No, it's pretty unbelievable. But, with all this movement, you have 6 of last year's 15 All-NBA players have changed homes just in the last couple of weeks with free agency and trade. So forget spending your whole career somewhere, which, of course, that's been an archaic thing for years and years at this point. It feels like stars, though, especially in the NBA, are moving around every few years now with this togetherness and guys wanting to play together and forcing general managers' hands. It's a players-run league. We know that. But is this bad for the game, or is it just kind of irrelevant?
I don't think it's hurting the game. I really don't. As a matter of fact, I think it actually has helped the game this year because for the first time in a while, you have a lot of teams that think they can win a championship. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing. You don't have one team. Now, again, I think people are minimizing LeBron James's impact. I think that they need to be reminded of LeBron James. I think people took a step back last year when LeBron didn't make the playoffs and said, oh, he's no longer a factor. I think they're going to find out just how big a factor he is again. So I think the Lakers are going to be much better than people think in the regular season. I just don't love them. The way they're going to have to play in the postseason to win the whole thing is going to be tricky for me. Regular season, I think they'll do very, very well. And I think, like I said, I've told you before, I think LeBron's going to have a very big season.
Well, and on that end, I mean, it's kind of, at least according to the odds makers, it's all about the LA teams. The Clippers with Kawhi, with George, they're the league's championship favorite, at least preseason. The Lakers, if you ask me, unreasonably right behind them. I don't think that LeBron, Anthony Davis, and a whole bunch of, has-beens, for lack of a better term, with a lot of them are question marks anyway, with someone like a DeMarcus Cousins, who I know you're not a big fan of. I'm not sure this team is truly a championship contender. I think that's putting a lot of weight on just pure talent of LeBron and Davis. Fair. Yeah, but you've got...
I think, but they will have a big regular season.
Sure,
I think they will, and they will be on TV every week, and they will be a very big team. I just think the move they missed was not getting Redick, letting Redick go to the Pelicans. I thought that was the player they needed. I think he's highly underrated. I think he's I know how much coaches respect his ability and his ability to get his shot in big spots. I know coaches everywhere are very, very high on Redick as a clutch player. That's the guy I would have gotten, and I thought they missed the boat. Green can help them, but Green was awful down the stretch for Toronto. He had a good regular season. He had 45% of his threes, but he was miserable in the postseason. They need catch-and-shoot guys. That's what they need. But the comical thing is this idea, LeBron's going to play the point. Where you been? LeBron has played the point his whole career.
Yeah.
What do you mean he's going to play the point? In any meaningful moment, he's always been the point guard. It's what I've tried to stress all along. Yeah. He's always been the point guard. Now we're going to call him the point guard. Well, great. He's always been the point guard anyway.
It's true. It's been that way for years, going back to Miami in many cases. Yeah,
his whole career.
Yeah,
his whole career, he's been the point guard. He's got the ball in the fourth quarter, and he wants the double team, and he wants to make a big pass. And if not, he'll take it to the rack.
So if you look at the top, call it half dozen teams, Clippers, Lakers, like I said, you put the Bucks, Rockets, Sixers, Warriors, they're all in that mix, at least in terms of, again, odds makers, preseason favorites. As we chat here in mid-July, who's the favorite? Who doesn't belong in that group?
I think they all belong. I think the question is how they're put together. I think Philly and Milwaukee deserve to be there. I think Milwaukee's a move away. I think they have to make the right move. I think almost every one of the teams is a move away. So I think the one that makes the really smart move, and if you're going to bet on anybody to make the smart move, bet on the Clippers because Jerry West is there. So that would be the one you would wager on, or I would wager on, because he's the smartest basketball man of all of them. And he's got a better eye for finding the underrated talent than any of them. So I would put them at the top only because I have great regard for his ability to find the player they need. Everybody needs a player. Everybody still needs something, which is the fun part of this, because they're all going to go into the season and they're all going to still be searching. And I think that's going to be the fun part for everybody to watch during the season. But I think it's going to make for a very interesting season.
It's one of those, unlikely MVP guys. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that power. When you see MVP guys, it's usually the guys who are hitting 30 home runs, knocking in 100. LeMahieu is a very, very good on-base guy. He's not a power hitter. He doesn't hit a lot of doubles. He's not that guy. So
yeah, but I mean, I think what he has shown this year is it didn't matter where he was, and that was always the little power he had was because he was at Coors,
right?
And yeah, he's still in AL East Parks, but he's carrying that team. And if the Yankees win that division, and Stanton and Judge, Stanton, who knows when we'll see him again. Judge, will, depending on what he does, almost regardless of what he does, if Trout slips up at all or maybe gets hurt or even just continues to do what he does, because, there's always this perception of it's just boring to this point what Trout does, game after game. Yeah. Playing for the Yankees, winning the AL East, having this story where nobody expected him, to be the one who leads them. DJ LeMahieu at plus 500 seems like really good value to me.
I think the odds are fair on LeMahieu. I like the narrative that you came up with there. I just think maybe being the
I didn't just make it.
Not make up the narrative that you presented, that you presented the case for DJ LeMahieu, and I feel like one piece in it about him being the unexpected guy might actually hurt him. Because there's so much firepower there with the Yankees that you would think of the MVP coming from the Yankees as a home run hitter, a guy that's hitting more in the middle of the order.
Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez would be that guy.
I mean, Sanchez or a healthy Judge, any of these guys. And what LeMahieu's going to potentially do in terms of leading each league in hitting, in batting average. If he can do that, that would be really impressive and maybe help his case. It just, when it comes down to it, I feel like the people that vote for MVP are going to just look at these numbers, and Trout's numbers are still going to be better than LeMahieu, despite how impressive of a transition he's had to the Yankees and how well he's done for them through all these injuries.
I don't know. Like, I'm just not drafting him because I don't know what to do with him. But again, it's funny. I talked about Chris Carson either being like a steal of a player or an absolute bust. It kind of feels like Gurley's going to be that. Either he's going to be the number one running back or just be abysmal.
Look, I think that the one thing you can take away with this Todd Gurley situation is this. They've added some other pieces around him. Yes, the playoffs were a bad scene. But all the stuff that I've read basically said kind of like you did, which is about Aaron Rodgers. He was hurt the whole year and playing through it. And then I think by the end, he was just gassed. So he's had an entire offseason. He has taken weight off, which is, I think, always a positive whenever you have any knee issues, to remove a little bit of the weight. And I think that a little bit better management where, from a fantasy perspective, you love the fact that he touched the ball so much, but does Todd Gurley really need to touch the ball all that often to still be a top 5 running back? And I think the answer is no. As long as he's touching it between the 20s there in the goal line, I don't think there's a problem with Todd Gurley. And I would absolutely take the risk with Todd Gurley, who could be a number 1 or number 5 overall running back that late, over a guy like Damian Williams, who is nowhere near the talent and a guy that we've already seen a lot of negative fallout from in the past in other roles that he's played in other offenses. So for me, I would take the risk with Todd Gurley there if I had the pick. And look, I just took him in Scott Fishbowl in the second round, so I'm a man of my word. I put my money where my mouth is.
Well, of the guys going around him in PPR scoring, let's just play a quick pick one name here. Would you rather have Todd Gurley or Dalvin Cook?
This is tough because Dalvin Cook's always hurt, so it's very funny to me that now it's like, oh, we got to choose. I'll take Gurley.
Okay. Would you rather have Kelsey or Gurley? Because I would rather have Kelsey.
I would rather have Kelsey because of the advantage, and I can figure out running back later on. I like the rookies this year.
Juju or Gurley?
That's a tougher one because I want to see how Juju is without Antonio.
Unfortunately, Joe, you're not going to get that chance before the season starts.
No, but I can remove that potential to have to watch it unfold on my fantasy team. I will probably take Juju in the full point PPR because I like doubling up on wide receiver, and down low is where you get Juju anyway. So it'll probably still be Juju for me.
So obviously then Beckham would be ahead of him as well?
See, Beckham's a little bit of a different animal for me. I am – you hit on my negative guy there. I'm not an Odell Beckham fan. It's not because I'm a Giants fan, and not at all, not even close. But Odell, it's a new team, it's a new offense, great talent. Also, the head is never quite there. And I would rather take my shot at Gurley in that offense, and I'll live and die with that decision. Yeah, OBJ is probably safe, but I think I can get OBJ-style production from some other guys, too, who are out there in that same scope, or even potentially who could move up to that range this year.
All right, so the next guy that I want to compare Gurley to, there's actually a question about from Arkel. Is Antonio Brown being drafted too early now that he's in Oakland? Why are folks assuming Brown will put up similar numbers in Oakland as he did in Pittsburgh when Carr seems to be a hindrance to wide receivers? Look how Amari Cooper thrived, Joe, after he left Oakland.
Again, thrive? Thrive is a question because, he thrived for a couple games. Is it going to be the same offense that it was in Pittsburgh? No, of course not. But if you take 10% off the top of Antonio Brown, even 15%, I think it justifies his ADP. I'll take Antonio Brown over Todd Gurley as well.
All right, Mayo and Company, great work. You got us back. Stick with you for another about 15 minutes. So hang with us here on The Sweat. We got a lot of good content. Let's keep going with football, too, because DK Live's Jeff Ulrich with a fancy eagle drawing is on his whiteboard, along with Steve Buchanan and DFS analyst Adam Mancuda, both back with us as well. So, Jeff, welcome in for the first time. You two, welcome back. We're talking Eagles, right?
Yes, our NFL team previews continue, and we are going to ask the panel, question number 1, we're going to predict tight end Zach Ertz and whether or not he'll be a fantasy MVP this season. Do you like our pick, Jeff?
Do you?
Yeah, it's a very enthusiastic introduction, Brandon. Look, if you're going Eagles, it's pretty much Ertz or Wentz, right? Now, I just don't see enough upside with Carson Wentz at the quarterback position for him to maybe become the Eagles team MVP. That could happen, but I think Ertz is probably the safer choice. I mean, you saw him; he's become a crutch for Carson Wentz. The two have obviously developed a connection, and anytime the Eagles are down or they're in need of a big drive, last season you saw it. The ball goes to Ertz. He averaged over 7 receptions per game. It was a career high. Basically had a career season. There are some concerns, Dallas Goedert coming in, stealing some touches, but with the connection these two have and the fact they're both entering the season healthy, I'd be shocked if Zach Ertz didn't put up another at least 90-catch season. So, yeah, I would predict him to be their team MVP for fantasy.
Your eagle drawing looks like Zazu from Lion King. Let's go to Steve Buchanan.
Timely.
Do you agree with the pick of Zach Ertz?
I mean, look, he's coming off a season where he just set the the most receptions by a tight end during the regular season. So, I mean, having him as the MVP, took a lot of work to figure out. I mean, look, but to be fair, like when you look at some of the weapons that the Eagles have acquired for this season, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to see some of his target share go down. Like, I don't think enough people are talking about the acquisition of Deshaun Jackson. Like, I just think he fits so well into this offense because when he's not the number one guy, when he's just that guy that's used as a deep threat, he really excels. And I think they're going to rely on him for those big plays going down the stretch here. But when it comes to like drafting a tight end, he's one of the safest ones on the board. I mean, George Kittle's definitely in the mix there as well, and you expect his numbers to go up even more with a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with Zach Ertz here. He's in a dynamic offense. Hopefully Carson Wentz is one throwing to him all season long. That's definitely a good thing, too, as well. So, I mean, in terms of MVP, yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the top picks here. So I agree with it.
Mancuda, is there a name off the board? You heard Steve mention Deshaun Jackson. Is there another receiver, or are you like Jeff, sort of a fan of Wentz here too? Where are you going here?
No, I think Ertz is the choice here. I think there's just, as Steve made a great point, that there is so much talent on this offense with Jeffrey and the running back situation, which we'll talk about in a second. Can we trust Wentz truly to be healthy for the full season and actually perform at the level he did before he got hurt in that game a couple years ago? There are a lot of questions, but the one constant year in, year out with this Eagles team is Ertz. He's the most talented player right now on that offense. I think he's, as Steve again said, he's the safest guy on the board at tight end outside of maybe Kelsey. But again, we know how many weapons the Chiefs have. This guy's the focal point of the offense. I think Jackson is going to open things up for Ertz, a lot less double coverage in the middle, especially with Jackson taking the safety potentially deep. So I do like the Ertz pick here as the safest bet moving forward for the Eagles.
I mean, give Zach Ertz some credit. It's a winning family right now. His wife, Julie, a member of the national U.S. soccer team, fresh off a World Cup win. So good for them. Let them bask.
They'll be a fan favorite all year.
Yeah, the Ertz family doesn't need to take any grief from Buchanan, certainly. But, all right, so guys, our panel of writers and analysts, the way this works, of course, as Glasheen mentioned, is that they decide on not just the booms, but the busts, least valuable player. And our group for the Eagles decide the least valuable player is going to be new addition Jordan Howard. That doesn't mean he's going to suck. It just means he's going to be overvalued. So, Bukes, let's go right back to you, pal. Do you believe that's going to be the case?
I don't know how you can be excited about any running back that's on the Eagles. There's like 19 guys on this depth chart right now that are competing for touches. And it's how do you trust one guy here? And, Howard was kind of a touchdown or bust option when he was with the Bears. And I feel like that's kind of be the same thing again here with the Eagles. And, I think he's going to get a good amount of their short yardage work. But other than that, like Miles Sanders could easily surpass him, especially if Sanders starts to shine early here. Like, I really don't understand why the Eagles made this move here. I don't know if they were worried about how the draft was going to go or whatnot, but I mean, Howard showed nothing with the Bears. I don't see that improving with the Eagles here, so I think he's a very, very good candidate for the LVP for this upcoming season.
Jeff, last year he cleared 1,000 yards, all-purpose, of course, 11 touchdowns, but comes into a very crowded backfield, as Bukes mentioned. So what do you think, LVP?
I mean, I'll stick up for Jordan Howard here a little bit. I mean, he's rushed for over 1,000 yards a couple times, like almost rushed for 1,000 yards last year. I'm not saying he's not going to be the least valuable player, but I think you look at this more as a collection. I think all the Eagles' RBs are going to be the least valuable players, including Miles Sanders. Let's go back and look at Doug Peterson. One running back, one time over the last 2 years, has taken over 20 carries in a game, and that was last year, Josh Adams, when everyone else was hurt. Okay, so nobody here is going to be taking an RB1 workload. It's not going to happen. Doug Peterson loves to collect running backs. He's done it again this summer. He's brought in Howard, Sanders, Wendell Smallwood. Josh Adams is still there. There's at least a couple names I've forgotten here because the list is so long. So these guys will make the roster. He will activate 3 or 4 running backs every game, and he'll mix them in. I don't like any of the Eagles running backs for fantasy.
You know what I'm hearing, Mancuda? Peterson's just keeping them all fresh.
He's not dumb. The guy's won a Super Bowl, and he
works in real life. Works in real life.
Yeah, and he's incorporated every one of them into that Super Bowl game plan. We had Corey Clement running down the left side for a touchdown. You had Garrett Blount in that Super Bowl, get off a couple big runs in that game. I mean, look, this is the Eagles' offense in a nutshell. So many weapons, and this is what makes them really tough to defend, and why if Wentz is healthy, this offense is going to put up a lot of points. The problem is, from a fantasy standpoint, Alshon Jeffrey's a decent wide receiver 3, maybe a low upside wide receiver 2. Same goes for Deshaun Jackson as maybe a flex wide receiver if you want to go that way. But the running back position's a total mess, much like New England's backfield, where you truly don't know who's going to get the touches week in and week out. So for me, I like Miles Sanders. He was a good prospect coming out of Penn State. I don't love him. I don't love Jordan Howard. I think if you're looking for a vulture at the goal line, Howard might be that guy. But again, it all depends. They have so many weapons that they could go to down the goal line. So I'd stay away from anyone in that backfield this year.
There's only one reason why Doug Peterson is not dumb, and Jeff knows why. Nick Foles caught it, right? Right, Jeff?
Look, I mean, he beat Tom Brady.
Move on. Move on.
Adam's rushing me. Okay, so the panel, the DK Live panel that Adam so eloquently described, they say that rookie running back Miles Sanders has a shot to be the fantasy breakout player for Philadelphia. Is that in agreement with you guys? Let's go to Mancuda first. Is he someone that stands out to you to be that breakout guy?
Who else is a candidate to break out? Everyone else we know about already. Jeffrey, everyone down the list. We just talked about everyone. So in terms of a breakout, sure, why not? I just don't see anyone else doing that. And he's probably the highly touted running back of this class for them. So sure, let's go with Sanders.
Hey, Bukes, I think you said something about Deshaun Jackson. Now, granted, we know who he is, to Mancuda's point, but it's a reunion with Philadelphia. We don't know what he's going to do in stint number 2.
I mean, I feel like the term breakout, you're looking for somebody to kind of exceed where they haven't before. So I wouldn't put Jackson in that category. I guess it's Sanders because, kind of like Adam said, something insightful for a change. There's really nobody else here on this team that really has the potential to break out. I mean, we see the potential here with Sanders. I mean, when Saquon Barkley left Penn State, he stepped right into that roll rush for just under 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. So it's not like the talent isn't there, but again, he's in that muddled backfield that how much opportunity is he really going to get on a game-to-game basis? That's really yet to be seen here. Somebody I think really has to step up to really get that number 1 role, which is the Eagles are really not prone to giving out. So he definitely has the potential, but if there's really anybody else, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. There's just a lot of consistency on this team, but not enough for a breakout for someone we haven't seen from before.
Bukes, these are your colleagues who put these picks together, okay? So lay off.
I don't like here.
Okay. Jeff, you have someone else in mind?
I do, actually. I'll throw Dallas Goedert out there, and I think the talent is there for Dallas Goedert to be a tight end 1. He's just in a bad situation for fantasy, but that can change over the course of a year. Maybe Zach Ertz just doesn't play as well, or he gets injured. I mean, if that ever happened, if Zach Ertz got injured, Dallas Goedert would be an instant tight end 1, in my opinion. It's also a player who saw his snap count increase over his rookie season. He played 60% of the snaps last 4 games. So he's got all the talent in the world. The Eagles did use him in spots last year. Like I said, his role grew, which makes me think that he's going to see a bigger role to start 2019. And I know the Eagles have a lot of talent on the outs at wide receiver, but we've seen Carson Wentz work really well with tight ends. So I don't think a Dallas Goedert breakout type of season, maybe alongside a good Zach Ertz season, kind of like Cameron Brayton, O.J. Howard, I don't think that's out of the question.
Well, Jeff, your drawing's not that great, but your creativity about coming up with a name other than what we named is much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, I'll try and do better for you next time, okay, Brandon? Sorry, it's not good enough.
That never gets old.
Thought we'd get through an hour show without that.
No, he was saving it. I respect that.
Yeah.
Now, with that, Jeff, we're going to kick you the heck out of here, mainly because we're going to allow you to start your weekend a little early. We're going to keep you other 2 bozos for the last 5 minutes of the show and switch back to baseball, all right? Let's do that because I think we have an intro here. A little put up your Bukes time. There it is.
Am I in this one this week?
Nope, sorry, pal, but Steve Buchanan has never looked better. So, Bukes, if anyone doesn't know how this works, you're going to outline some guys, some fantasy production that you expect from them tonight, and Mancuda can tell you why you're wildly off the mark. Why don't you go with your first one?
Yeah, we're going to go with Jesse Chavez here. I mean, it's not very often that I'm interested in rostering a pitcher who has a salary of $4,000, but he's going up against an Astros offense that kind of limped into the All-Star break, and now is also going to be without Alex Bregman tonight. And, you know, you look at the Houston offense, they averaged 4.6 run per game right before the All-Star break, but a lot of that had to do with the 11-run outbursts they had against the Angels. And, you know, in terms of returning value, you don't need a lot from him tonight. He just finished the month of June with a 246 WOBA, 3.81 xFIP, 26K percentage during that month. So putting him at 18 DK fantasy points I don't think is outrageous. You know, if that win total would help a lot. So even if we get 14 to 15 from him and the win, I'd be more than happy with that. But like I said, 4,000 on a night where there's a lot of bats you want to pay up for, I think he makes a hell of a lot of sense tonight.
Mancuda,
I don't disagree. I don't mind the pick, especially at that price value. My concern there is there are three guys in that lineup, even without Bregman in that lineup: Gurriel, Brantley, Reddick, that have hit him well in his career. I also with Garrett Cole on the other side. How hard can the Rangers hit him? So, you know, banking on that win is surely not a sure thing. But hey, if you want to pay up for some of those bats, especially with, you know, guys like the Rockies at home, some of the Dodger bats against Eduardo Rodriguez, like we talked about before, not the worst place. So do I think he's going to get to 18? No, but I think, 13 to 14, 15 range, that's probably a safe bet.
Go ahead, Bukes. I'm not supposed to talk during this segment, remember?
Oh, okay, that's good. We're going to go with Jason Kipnis for 16 DK fantasy points. Going up against Kyle Gibson. You know, I mentioned earlier in the show that Gibson has been struggling against lefties, especially on the road. And we got Kipnis batting cleanup tonight, and when he's at home against righties, 388 WOBA, 197 isolated power with 3 for 7 home runs on the year. He's still really cheap overall, and he's been hitting pretty well, especially pre-All-Star break. So 16 DK fantasy points I don't think is out of the realm. You know, obviously we can get there a number of different ways. It doesn't have to be a solo home run and a walk, but that's, the first that comes to mind here. But I think we have a really good game coming up for Kipnis, especially for the Indians, who are favored in this game. So I do like the Indians and Kipnis as a whole here in this spot.
Come on, Mancuda. Disagree. Make it fun.
So we'll save it for the next one. I like this Kipnis pick. 424 career batting average, a ton of at-bats in his career against Kyle Gibson, 568 on-base percentage. I think in that ballpark tonight, the ball should be flying. I like the matchup against Gibson. We talked about this earlier as well. Like the fact that Kipnis could get on base a couple times, hitting that cleanup spot, drive some guys in ahead of him. I don't mind this pick at all. I actually like it a lot.
Go ahead, Bukes, your segment.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so we're going to go with Jake Lamb here. So originally I had this down when Adam Wainwright was scheduled to pitch. So he was scratched. Now they have Daniel Ponce de Leon. I don't even know if that's right, but it sounds good to me. But here's what I like about Lamb. I mean, he's recently back from injury, so we don't have a ton of stats on him thus far, but he's been making some really good contact. He has a 41% hard hit rate on the season. We've seen him post some good power numbers before in prior seasons against right-handed pitching as well. So, again, this is kind of more of a salary saver that I'm looking for, but I don't mind this spot for him, for Lamb here. I think the Diamondbacks are actually going a bit overlooked because of the pitching change. I think they're still in a really good spot here tonight. So Lamb eligible at both first and third base, 3,500. Posting it for 12, like I said, this was kind of more towards when Wainwright was taking the on. But you know what? I'm not a coward. I'll stick with the 12. Well, what the hell do I care? I think he's a good play anyway, so take a shot with him.
Yeah, I happen to disagree on this one. It's not because I don't like Lamb. I've been a supporter of his for a while. Obviously, he's been hurt the last couple of years. He's been struggling with that. Outside of the one start he had against the Mets, Ponce de Leon, where he struggled with his control early. I think they ended up winning that game anyway against the Mets a few weeks back. He's actually pitched really well, so I wouldn't have minded this with Wainwright on the mound. Ponce de Leon, on the other hand, has been pretty good. I'll steer clear of Lamb. I just don't love it. He hasn't hit for a ton of power, as you said, since he was back from the injury. Even last year he struggled with that a little bit too, so don't love this pick. But hey, I like your courage there, going and sticking with your guy despite the fact that there was an injury involved.
Sorry, I'm not a coward. Do we have enough time for the last one, or what are we doing here?
No, we're light on time. How about a Slater-proof pick?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Caleb Smith here. I really like this spot for him against the Mets, especially pitching at home in Marlins Park, where he's been absolute money. So Caleb Smith.
And Mancuda, please.
Yeah, look, as we kind of talked about, I like everyone in that the Dodger Red Sox game. Give me Justin Turner back in the lineup with some support around him against Eduardo Rodriguez in Boston, in that park, ball flying out, hot night in Boston. Give me Justin Turner.
All right, that'll do it. That's a show. Adam, you done?
We're done.
Weekend's here.
It's time.
Thanks for your help. Thanks for everyone's help. We'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, you guys were terrific. Enjoy the weekend.
We get some sleep.
Be good.